I'm just gonna record
came
it.
to sounds great. What came to mind when she was talking to me about it. So we're gonna just do a little bit of a exercise all together over the next little bit. This is something that my first like professional mentor did with us when we would first work for them, started with them. So I did it for the first time like 20 years ago or so, and I try and do it on a regular basis. I think why Tammy asked me to do this is like professional development is a big thing for me personally. I strive to learn something new every week, right? It's part of my prep for the week thing. On like Sunday, I say, okay, this is what I'm going to try and learn this week. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. And I've never been a New Year's resolution person, but I do that process when I was a little kid on my birthday. That's how my family did it. On your birth, you made a goal. It could be a big goal or a little goal. And my family is all about like accountability buddy type things. And so like you had to share that sort of thing. And both in a very loving way and sometimes overbearing way, they would like bug you about through the year, like how are you doing on your goals? So you have to be very strategic about your personal development goals over the years to keep particularly my mother happy. But part of the reason that I think professional development and personal development, we'll just club those together here, is so important is there's a lot of evidence out there that working on those two things, we'll start with professional development, that providing people opportunities for professional development and taking those opportunities for professional development is one of the #1 leading elements to somebody having satisfaction in their job and staying there. And the kind of, you can frame that from the flip side the other way. One of the top reasons people say they left a job is that they were not appreciated and they were not given opportunities to learn and grow and things like that. And it's also been really strongly tied to successful relationships, just the personal development type thing, that if you were constantly growing, you grow with your partner. And if you're not growing, inherently, you kind of grow apart and add resentment. So I think for both of those categories is a good one for us to work on. Unfortunately, the stats kind of say that the vast majority of people who do goal setting exercises don't meet those goals. And it can actually be a self-fulfilling negative cycle. I strive a goal, I failed, I felt sad. So when I set a goal to do better, I failed, I felt sad, right? And so there is all of these benefits to it. And I think we often fail at both our professional development goals and our personal development goals because we don't really think about why we have those goals. So it's a long-winded thing to get to the exercise we're going to do in a little bit about. You say you have a goal, why do you actually have those goals? Some of the major reasons that they say that we fail at setting goals is because we don't turn them into actions. So hopefully some of this exercise will help with that. How can you drive those actions? That we don't track ourselves, which, going back to the family dynamic one, I never realized that was like a big thing growing up. But my family made us track our personal development goals. That sounds like it was from a very loving place, and I had very hippie, for lack of a better way to put it, parents, and so it was from a very loving standpoint. But we did check-ins about how you were doing on your goals. And the other, I think, major reason that we often don't do well in these goals is we don't tackle them in a strategic way. So again, my family is pretty far out there in a number of different ways, and I am by far the most follow the line type person in my family. And so where they were always very freeform in many of their ways, this very structured approach I think we're going to go through here in a little bit has been very helpful for me over the years. For those of you who have come from a maybe engineering failure analysis standpoint and or a health and safety world, you might be familiar with the concept of like the 5 whys strategy. Have people heard that? You keep asking why until you get to really what the big issue is or the big goals that you're going to do. So this goal setting exercise, which I'll preface by saying I'm not going to ask anybody to share. If you want to share what your goal is in the end, great. But after a lifetime of having to share all of my goals in a very public standpoint, I will let you choose if that's right for you or not. But we'll do this 5 whys exercise associated with goal setting. I encourage you to think about it from either a professional or personal development standpoint, but focus on one of them. I find it really helpful to have something to write down on because there will be like a question and response type approach to this. Or if you have a better memory than me, you can do it on your own. So I'll give you a minute to get some paper and we'll go from there. Maybe just like give me the thumbs up when people are getting close-ish to being ready.
Hey, Christian, I got disconnected. I didn't hear the last little bit you said.
So we're going to do a little bit of a goal setting thing. I encourage you to have a piece of paper or something to write down, right? Just something to keep track of your responses when I ask these questions.
Is this like, you have this goal, why do you have this goal? Why is that important? Is that where it's going?
You're jumping ahead. Yeah, that's the route we're going.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I did this on my first day at my first CSU job, actually. Very first day of working at CSU. I did this process. As people are doing the paperwork, I had brought this up to my mentor later. He has zero recollection that he used to make everybody do this. So obviously it was not as impactful on him as it was for me and the people who I started working with, but I remember it 20 years later. Okay, so I want you first, and this is not one of your 5 whys, set a goal. Like, what do you, from a personal development or professional development standpoint, and Tammy threw out some examples beforehand, but just take a few minutes to think about like what is a goal for you. So the first why question is, why do you have this goal in mind? Like, why was this the thing that first jumped forward for you? So we're talking about like, I did this on do goal setting on my birthday since I was a little kid. I have now close to 20 years of these for every one of my birthdays. Also says how engineering mindset I am. All in a notebook, had the same notebook for 20 years. Is that enough time for people? Why do you have this in mind? Why is this goal important to you? Why do you think this goal will make you happier or make you better? Whatever term you might use for it. Why can't you achieve what you want without this goal? And why haven't you already done this? If it's that important to you, why haven't you already done it? That's why I kind of do like the thumbs up thing again here. Take as much time as you want. Like we're gonna leave a lot of time for you just to reflect on a Friday the 13th afternoon after this as well. So we got plenty of time. Is everybody ready? Okay. So I think lots of, everybody works differently in terms of the tools that are effective and things like that. But I've found that I am not necessarily good at identifying what is truly a development thing that I want and all of the reasons why I want it. So I've done lots of professional development things that I got to the end and felt like they, although it looked great on a CV, did not make me a better engineer, person, colleague, partner, any of those things, because they end up being more of a checking of the box process. So I try and do a lot more of my priority setting based on those kind of 5 questions, which have taken me down tons of roads that I think I am better for. So we'll give one example of those pieces. I used to do a lot of feedback. That is what I did in the field, probably way more time than anybody reasonably should be. And I ended up there because I said the best way for me to be impactful was to be with people. And so I kept doing professional development things that made me really, really good and marketable at being in the field, and ended up making me extremely unhappy. I love those experiences, but after whatever 7 years of it and never being home, that was a downward spiral that was not in anybody's best interest. And what made me just leave was doing this process. I was trying to come up with, okay, what was my professional development goal for this year? And there wasn't a single one of those 5 questions that had me being in the field. It was to the point that I was about to drop out of my PhD program because the only things that program could give me were keeping me in the field. And then I went through and did this process. It's like, well, I want to help people, and like kind of checked through all of the pieces. And it turned out there were many, many development pieces that I could start building to work myself out of being a field person that did these better, right? I had, set goals that got me out of dreading being in the field. Like the field is all I ever thought about. Even when I was at home, I was thinking about going to the field next, because I knew I was going to have to go to the field in 2 weeks or a month. Why was that goal important for me? Because the only thing that people knew about me, like in Fort Collins still, is, oh yeah, you're the person who's going to the international sites all the time. Tell me about your field site thing. That I had 0 positive goals that came with telling one more story about one more field site. So I set a goal to not go to the field again for 1 year. I ended up doing that for close to 3 years, and had to do a massive change. I left the mechanical engineering department and got funded by a different department at CSU, who gave me the flexibility to finish my PhD program while being funded by them. But I had done years and years of goal setting that sent me down the wrong path, because I don't think I was being honest about these 5 questions about why the goals I was setting for myself were positive or good. And why haven't you done this? For me personally, is the biggest one. Like, I am all about self-accountability, and there have been extremely few of my personal or professional development goals that answer for that last one is, I just haven't done it right. Just, there was no external blockers except for myself for almost any of my professional goals about the ones that actually mattered for me in the last 20 years. So I think the reason Tammy asked me to talk about this is we were at some happy hour a number of years ago, and she asked, well, what do I have coming up? And I had a whole long laundry list of things I was going to be doing. And there was some sentiment of, oh, you're super busy. I'm like, oh no, like I'm doing that goal because I have all of these reasons I want to do it. And so my professional development goals in the last couple of years, none of them have been burdens for me, right? I am fortunate I've been able to be in a position that all professional development goals have been able to check off the 5 kind of why questions for me in the last couple of years. Questions there? The students who work with me, you're going to have to do this over time. Just give you a heads up. We'll do your goal setting for the year. I'll make you think about these things. From a managerial standpoint, I think one of the things that, and the reason I bring it to the whole, one of the I think most eye-opening feedbacks I've gotten from somebody I mentored is I had them set all kinds of goals, and all of them ended up being things that they felt like were a waste of their time because they weren't the right goals for them. So I've tried to be a lot more deliberate the last couple of years about there's lots of ways to be have successful professional development, and you loathing doing them doesn't do anybody good. So hopefully for the team who's working with me, we will set some professional goals. I won't ask you about any of your personal development goals. I feel like that's all on you. But for the professional development goals, we'll try and set some things that you feel like make you a better person and a better professional each year. So for those who are working with me, you're going to do this over the winter break, just to give you that's it. Questions? Thoughts?
I've got one. Because we have to, well, they're sort of implementing this at the college level when we have, so each, you do your professional activity audit every year and you get evaluated by your department. there's more of an effort like to push, which is good. I'm not complaining about it really, but that you be judged not on how many papers you got done, things like that, but on, I've set 3 goals and this is the progress I've made and so on. And the question I have, because I then talk with each of the faculty members about, okay, let's talk about your goals and that kind of thing. And is it fair? And I'm not sure fair is the right word, but is it fair to ask people to also like, okay, so here's a professional goal for you personally, but like, what's a goal the department has that you would want to, that you will help to take on, or some way to also bring this into that collective approach? Because if I basically have 15 independent contractors as it is in many cases. If I can get us to kind of work together, and if that goal setting can be part of that, did you guys ever do that as a family or anything?
So we certainly shared them, right? So there was all of those pieces. I think where it has worked for me, both kind of on the personal and with our teams, is if I know what the person next to me is trying to get to, there's 1,001 small little acts of support that I can do to help get them there, right? Or sometimes not do things because that's blocking for them. So I think being open about those helps, succeed as an entire community. Where we have kind of clumped them together in some of the teams that I have worked on is oftentimes there's overlapping activities that support multiple people's goals, right? So like one specifically that comes to mind is several years ago, one of the common theme that came out for a number of the students on their goal setting is they wanted to be part of the planning process, like for our projects, that like, I want to be independent. I don't want to be told what to do. Like, it's a goal for me to get to the point of quasi-independence. And they each had different reasons about why they had that, but we were able to do some kind of clumping of things of like, oh, that means you all need support on how the university system works, right? Or you all need support on understanding what your rights or responsibilities are. And so I think it was like, for my role as a manager, I can then start to say, oh, that's a common theme, that's a common theme, that's a common thing. We can support them. Where I think it has been really helpful from a team standpoint is some of the answers that have come up about why you haven't done this yet. And sometimes that reflected on me, seeing it. You haven't done this yet because you didn't think you had the ability to get funds to do it. I couldn't afford to do that course. I can always find you the $500 to go take that course. It's kind of a roundabout way to answer your question.
Actually, that's helpful. I hadn't thought of those, those connections and then you've got, oh, I can help this group of people and so on. And a lot of times sometimes they just don't ask. You're like, well, no, I have money for that. You've asked me for these other things I don't have money for, but I do have money, over here. So, so thanks. That's really helpful.
Yeah, I do this as part of my annual review. This is how I structure. These are literally kind of how I get to my 5 sentences about like my personal statement in my annual review. I have noticed that there is this, right? It's on my mind that I am not good at X, Y, or Z. By doing this, I will be better for X, Y, and Z. And to be honest, it's kind of written a lot of my personal statements, both in like grad school, fellowship applications, and my annual reviews at this point is going through the same thought process.
Well, and I think too, like all we have to do right now is you just write down, here's the goal, and you don't have this examination of what the goal is or why and things. And there's nothing that we as a department can, and I as a chair can say, well, have you go through this process while you're creating that goal, which I think would be really helpful for the faculty to do. And I think we'll get better goals that will actually get people where they want to go. And I think right now we haven't had to do them that long, and they seem kind of rinky-dink right now. And so I think this kind of an examination of them could help them to be more useful to us as a department and to the individuals. So this is cool.
And I find it helpful. Take the tools that work for you and that don't. Completely ignore the ones that don't. But being a little more systematic has always helped me in this process. Nothing more demoralizing than going an entire year realizing that you didn't achieve something you said was important to you. So I used to do this as sticky notes around my house until my wife said no more sticky notes on things, and taught me that sticky notes are not material compatible with everything you have in your home. Sticky notes will take a finish off a table, turns out, if you leave them there for a year. Goal for next year, repair the wooden table.
Thanks, Christian. I found it
Yeah.
helpful as both for work and because I'm still a grad student. So I think it was at first I just panicked. I'm like, I don't have goals. But when I thought of it more as like, oh, I'd like to get this certification or finish this publication and break it down and realize I don't actually want to do some of those. So that I liked it as a process of an elimination and kind of getting rid of some cognitive distortions. So I found it useful as a weed out tool. Because the idea of making a goal is very daunting for me. So thanks.
Yeah. I use the same 5 approach oftentimes when people say they haven't been able to get something done. Why? Students who are agreeing with me will also come to realize this. So we'll just keep asking why until we get to the answer that I want. So yeah, root cause analysis, right? If you want to get super nerdy to it. This is the basis now for OSHA's incident reporting. If you get hurt on your job, you have to do these same sort of 5 why, slightly different questions. But that's how they make you do your investigations now. Okay, well, that's what I had. Certainly happy to chat more if people have questions or thoughts or things that they want to share. Otherwise, like the last thing I said, people didn't have to share theirs. I will share mine just from a very quick standpoint. We won't do all of them. I used to be great about leaving work at work. I take work home now. And that's my goal for this year. No more work being taken home. So you are all wonderful people, but if I achieve my goal, I'm not going to think about an interview after hours. Work will stay within these 125 square feet of my office. All right, thanks everyone. That's what I had.
Thanks, Christian.
Yeah, thanks.
I really appreciate you having that last question. I'll say that because the goal, I've been working on something for the last couple of months, and being able to answer that last question was the most important to being able to start making progress. And it wasn't, I haven't gotten around to it.
Have a great everyone. Talk to you on Monday, I guess, for many of you.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Thanks.
Thank you.